YouTubers, welcome back to my channel. In today's tutorial I'm going to be doing an under the sea cake, and I'm going to be showing you how to make these stunning shell molds from Marvelous Molds shell collection, and I also have some from Fondant Solutions as well. The Fondant Solutions are these turquoise ones and Marvelous Molds are the green ones. So let's begin. So to get the marbled effect on the shells, you can see how I've got that. That makes them look very realistic. I've also dusted these with a little bit of luster dust, and I made them yesterday so they're nice and firm. But to get that marbled effect, I use a couple of different colors. I've got some beige and some white, a little bit of brown and some gold. And we're just going to roll those into little sausages. And I've put some Tylose powder in here, Tylose or CMC, whatever you have. White. So what I do is I start off and roll them into a sausage. And then I literally twist all of that together. And I'm just mixing it in. I'm careful not to over mix it, otherwise it'll just all become one color. Just twist it and blend it a little bit. And then you can take some off and you can pop it into one of the shell molds. Don't overfill it, just pop them in. Press it in nicely and then just cut off any excess with the back of a palette knife. Put that in nicely. And just press it over, turn it over and just give it a good press. That will give all that nice indentation on the shells. You can see how nicely they come out. Right. And what I do as well with these, I pop them into the freezer because sometimes they're a bit difficult to get out if you've got deep molds, especially like this one. This is quite a deep mold. So I'm going to paste my sugar paste in there, pop it in the freezer for a couple of minutes, and then take it out. And then it pops out nice and easily. Give it a good press in there. And this is my seahorse mold from Marvelous Molds. And I'm going to do this one in a gold color, because I want to paint this gold. So this the base color of this is a gold gel food color. And I'm just going to work that in all the way around. Now it's sticking to my hand, so I'm just going to use a little bit of corn flour. And then I'm going to take off the excess. I'm just going to use a little bit of the petal base to coat my palette knife, which will make it slide through the paste nice and easily when I'm cutting it. And you can just go back and check and make sure that all your little nooks and crannies are filled in nicely. I see the tail's a little bit on the thin side, so I'm just going to add a little bit more to the tail of the seahorse. Off the excess, turn it over and give it a good press to get all those nice indentations. And then these are going to go in the freezer for a few minutes, because if I try and get this out now, I'm not going to be able to get that nice curve of the tail. You can see it's going to come out quite soft, and I want it to come out nice and firm. Going to pop these in the freezer. Whilst the molds are in the freezer, I just want to explain to you about sand. So this is cake sand, and this is made from the offcuts of your cakes, and you pop all the offcuts on a baking tray into the oven about 120 degrees Celsius for a couple of hours just to dry everything out, and then you pop these into a blender and blend away and you will get some sand. It's delicious actually, and that's how you make cake sand. Right, so they've been in the freezer for about 5 minutes, and I'm just going to pop these out, and there we can see how beautiful that seahorse is. And I'm just going to take out the other shell. There we go. And we'll take out these as well. So you can see how realistic they look by using the marbled effect. Now these just need to dry out because they've been in the freezer. They're now reaching back to room temperature and they're going to have a bit of condensation on them. So I can't do anything with those yet. But in the meantime, I've got all my other shells prepared and they're now ready to go on the cake. And I'm going to show you how we're going to ice the cake with buttercream, and we're going to do an ombre blue effect. Right, so now I've got all my buttercream already mixed, and I have used the Colorburst Aqua, and I've also flavored the icing with Flavor Nation's blueberry. Delicious. Okay, so what I did was I've added a drop of the aqua to my buttercream, and once that was mixed, I took out a tablespoon of that, put it into a bowl and added white to it to get to this color. And then I've got my white buttercreamers here. So you can see I've got the ombre blue effect going on here. So I'm going to start by using the white, and we're going to start with the top of the cake first. And we apply the icing to the top. And then I'm just going to come down the side. Now you can see I've got my layers of cake. I've got 4 layers that I've ganached together. And I'm going to come down to that first layer so that I can then use the other colors as we go down the cake. So I'm going to come down there. And you can also pipe this on, but I just find with the white I prefer to start at the top and bring it down the sides. I don't need a piping bag for that, but I will need a piping bag for the other colors. Just to even it up, I'm just going to go around, just even that up a bit. Now I'm not worried about all the unevenness because I'm going to be smoothing this down just now with cake cloth, which I've used in quite a few of my tutorials previously. Just adding an extra layer on here. Right. Okay, so now I'm going to take my lighter of the 2 blues and I'm going to pipe that around the edge of the cake. Just work it out there. I always like to ganache my cakes before I do any work on them. Obviously not with the semi-naked or naked cakes, but any other cake is always ganached beforehand. It gives a nice firm base to work on. And I'll post a link to my tutorial where I've done a ganache cake before in the description box. I'm just piping another row around of the lighter blue. And 3rd row. Alright, now we can go on to our next colour. Just do another one. even. We'll go into our main deep color blue, and that's going to start here. Right, and now we're going to give the cake a nice scrape, which will blend all those colors together. And I'm going to do one full revolution, so I always start with both my hands and then I go in opposite directions. A few good scrapes. Right, now I'm just going to stand back and I'm just going to check and see where I need to fill in any little gaps. A gap at the bottom there. Another scrape. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it like that for now, and just to let that buttercream crisp just a little bit, so that I can now work it with the cake cloth. Okay. Right, so now the cake is crisped just a little bit, the buttercream is just crisped over, and I can now use my cake cloth, and this is where the magic happens. So the cake cloth will just smooth all those imperfections, and I'm just going to work that round, bring it round to you. If your buttercream is still too wet, it's going to stick to your cloth. That's why you need to leave it to set. You can pop it in the fridge for a few minutes, or you can, if it's a nice hot day, you can just leave it in front of you for a little bit and it will crisp over. You can see how nice and smooth that's coming. Work in some of these little gaps. I'm just turning it over because I have got a bit of blue on there, and now I'm going to just smooth the top area. Just smooth that down a bit. And just go around the cake again. It's wonderful stuff. And it's the Queen of Hearts cake couture cake cloth, which you can get at most online baking stores. Now I'm just going to pop this on an upturned plate, and I'm going to pop it into the fridge just to firm up before I move it onto the board and before we can start to decorate it. Here we go. There's your ombre blue buttercream cake. Right, now that the cake's on the board, and it's a covered board, remember, cover those boards, I'm going to put a little bit of piping gel around the base of the cake on the board. And the piping gel is so that when I come to put the sand on, which is just cake crumbs, it'll stick nicely on there. So I'm just going to add this all the way around. You can also use a paintbrush if you want. I'm just using the back of a palette knife. Right, so there we've got it all the way around. And I'm going to add cake crumbs. There we go. Just with a teaspoon, I'm just going to sprinkle it towards the sides. And I've covered the board in a beige sort of color just to keep the sand color. You can cover it in blue if you want, but I just thought the bed of the sea is usually brown. Beige. And you can see how nicely this is starting to come together. And you can freeze your cake crumbs as well. So when this is done today, I'm going to pop this container into the freezer, and you can take out it as and when you need it. The sand on the cake. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to attach the shells, and I've got a little bit of melted chocolate, and I'm going to stick the shells to the side with a bit of the melted chocolate at the back. So I'm going to start off by placing the bigger pieces up at the top, and this is a piece of coral that I made using the Marvelous Molds coral mold, and I've got a 18 gauge wire that I put inside. I put a little bit of petal glue on it just so that it'll stick, and I'm going to find the back of the cake. This is now the front. I'm just going to insert that into the cake, and I've got a mermaid's tail that's also going to go on top. And then we can start decorating. And here you can have a little bit of fun. I'm just going to pop that there. There we go. A little bit of chocolate at the back. Don't put too much on, otherwise it oozes out. Just want that to stick nicely. So I'm going to place that there. Just hold it in place for a few seconds. And these little molds that I use, these are cactus molds, but they're perfect for under the sea themes as well. And that's from Fondant Solutions. Look at that stunning one. Putting on some tiny little seahorses. Get this mold from Fondant Solutions. A bit. Right. Now that's still a bit wet. I just want to lift that. This is the one I made earlier, and I did paint it. It's still a bit wet. I might need to just touch that up a bit. And I said when they come out the freezer, they're still sticky because of the condensation, and I'm going to pop that one there. Right, I'll need to just touch up the gold on that. Then to finish off, I'm going to just pipe a few little swirls, and I've put together some of the icing all in one bag. So there you can see I've got the blue and the white, the ombre blue and the white. I'm just going to add a few little swirls at the back of the cake just to fill in the gaps. There we go. Put a few in the front. But I'm just going to finish off the cake now with just piping on a few little air bubbles, and this is royal icing. I just want to unblock my nozzle because it's dried since I had it out there. There we go. There we go. Right. So I'm just going to pipe a few little splodges of this, which gives the effect of air bubbles. This also just adds a little bit more detail. So just to finish off, I'm just going to pipe a few little rosettes at the bottom. Almost acts as a bit of seaweed. Pipe it going up. There we go. And I think that's it. Maybe put another one on top here, just to fill in the gaps. And there we go. And there's your under the sea cake. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and please give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And if you've got any questions, just pop a message to me and I'll get back to you. Thank you. Goodbye.